if I may jump into the first panel. The panel actually, as you would have seen in the handout that you have, is actually unveiling the digital revolution in banking in Bahrain. And I think we have been at it for a while, and there has been a lot of action that we have seen. But I actually thought we'll start the panel with my first panelist, who actually has an outside-in view of what's happening in Bahrain, because he's someone I've had the privilege of knowing him for more than 20 years. He's actually been holding leadership positions in very large institutions, and presently he's the CEO for Mawarid Finance. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome Rashid al-Mehboob. Rashid. Well, now that we actually are talking about transformation, it's important that we have somebody who's at the helm of transformation, who's been driving transformation, not only in Bahrain, but also in, from an international footprint standpoint, of one of the leading banks in Bahrain. Please welcome the Chief Transformation Officer, Group Chief Transformation Officer of Gulf International Bank, Sukhwinder. My third panelist for the day. Now, action is where execution is. And it's not just about thinking, but also about doing. We had Chetan talk about you should have 10-member squads that are more active and more effective. I'm sure most of us are familiar with what we're talking about here, which is all about Agile. So we actually have amongst us someone who's been driving Agile transformation, a senior lead in driving the Agile transformation at, again, another bank that Chetan talked about, which is going through its merger transformation, Ahli United Bank. So we have with us the senior Agile lead for IT transformation at AUB, Abdelhamid. Syed. Well, we have three bankers here, but isn't it time for us to also have someone who is enabling all of this happen? So we have amongst us, we have the general manager of one of the leading core banking technology suppliers in the region, someone whom I have had the joy of knowing for more than 20 years now. And someone who's obviously been also highly respected for his experience, seniority, and having seen what's happening around the world. Please put your hands together to welcome Mr. Raji Challita. Thank you. So, as I said, it's an unenviable job. So if I make any errors, then I apologize upfront. But we'll try to make sure that this is as interesting as possible. And I'm going to start the discussion with Rashid. And I think we were chatting this morning, Rashid. And you've actually been at driving what one would call as making fintechs as a part of the ecosystem. And I've always known you've been doing this in organizations that you've actually led. So my question to you is, what does it really take for a bank to truly embrace building partnerships with the fintech ecosystems? And what works, what doesn't work, and what would you think is the critical success factor there?
So I think that's a very important question. I'll just go back to the Chetan presentation, which he started his presentation is actually how you can build going forward a digital bank or a fintech solution working with banks. But you should start with the last slide where the customers are the most important thing. Because yes, if you look at us, I think whatever we have now is something that we were thinking that to do 10 years ago. But the whole point is how we can serve our customers better. If you look at it, still they are the same customers, but now they have different needs. Maybe their culture changed, maybe their habits change. All of that lead us to maybe start introducing something different to them. If you look at currently now, if I'm a fintech company or even if I'm a digital bank, whom I'm going to targeting? I'm going to targeting the new generation. Am I going to targeting the existing old people who are like more than 30 years old? I think that's where should be the focus. Then putting into that, if we look at the current banks, all of our banks now, they have their own legacy. And I feel that sometimes I come from that industry as well. I feel very proud that I have that very strong legacy where sometimes I feel I cannot let go of it. You know? So yes, I want to introduce a new technology, I want to introduce a fintech, but what about something that I did 2 years ago, introducing a new service? I know now it's not doing good, but I have to keep it because it was my call to introduce it. But suddenly my customers' habit changed. So it become a more of like, a challenge for me to let go of my ego, of my decision that I have taken some time ago. And I think that is very challenging. But still, I think we have to be very straightforward on how we're going to move forward when it comes to delivering our offerings down the road for the customers. Yes, I think the other challenge I can see when we look at the customers, I think one of the main challenges, we have fintech companies and we have regulators. How we are coping with this? The regulators today, they set a rule. The fintechs, they are assuming very smart people, they come with their own solutions, but they work on their solution away from the main providers for the current challenges that have been faced by the customers. So actually the fintechs, they are serving or they are trying to solve a solution or solving a problem which already you have a bunch of banks already doing it for those customers. So he starts the fintech organization, they start thinking of providing a solution without getting in consultation or even without engaging as a partner the financial eco. They don't go with the banks, they don't go with the financial institutions, they come up with their own solution. But because there is a regulation, they end up after maybe 1 year, 2 years, whatever they have developed, whatever they have spent in money, whatever they have spent in time, now they cannot move forward, they have to go to a bank. And when they go to the bank, at that time they have drained out all of their energy, all of their resources, and the bank at that time become the Superman to tell them, sorry, I'm not interested in your solution. So I feel that's one of the most challenging part when we look at the going forward with the fintech solutions, when we look at going forward with the digital banks. So I think we have to move further. I think we have to let go of the ego part, which with the banks now they have. And also we have to align ourselves still with the regulators. I think Chetan mentioned a good example with the bank in India, where actually they did not meet only one part of the regulator, which is not meeting the AML. And suddenly they've been stopped from working. And if you look at this very simple example where I've interacted with so many fintech companies, they cannot move forward unless they get the blessing of the central banks. And that is a fact, they cannot. So they end up suddenly, their millions that they have spent, their time, is just a waste because the regulator said, sorry, you cannot take it this way, you need to go back and work with a regulated entity, the banks, and then you come back with a joint solution. So I think that's some of the challenges that we can see with the fintechs, but still the main focus is the customers. If you're going to move to introduce your services to the new generation, you have to ensure that as a bank or as a fintech solution, there should be a comprehensive solution provided by the fintech with the banks to ensure how to move forward. And then going back to Chetan, he mentioned also the new bank, which just came maybe to the UAE, which is already having a success story in UK, and they've just been onboarded in UAE. So you imagine all of the digital banks who are like in UAE, they suddenly will be faced by this huge bank with the huge success story, just now entering the UAE market, and will start competing with all of his infrastructure, with all of his knowledge. He will just start to tap and to take the share of the existing banks. So I think those are some of the things that we need to look at. Still, I feel the customer has to be at the heart of everything. It should not be, I'm a fintech, I want to introduce my own solution, or I'm a bank, I should continue with my own solutions, without considering the customers at the heart of all of those regulation, fintechs, solutions, legacies, all of that. I think now we are moving in a much fast and rapid way forward. That's
brilliant. No, brilliant, Rashid. So I'm just going by what I've noted here. The 3 takeaways from your comments. The first is customer is in the front and middle of everything you do. Embracing the fintech ecosystem has to be keeping the compliance context in mind. So do not do anything that will actually be a surprise factor later. But the third point you made is if you want to start the transformation journey, before you say, let's go, you got to let go of your ego, and then we could actually make the transformation possible. And I'm going to take that comment to you, Sukh. And I think you've been you're the Chief Transformation Officer, and you actually understand what it takes to actually go through a transformation. So we all are discovering, Sukh. So I guess we are all in the journey of getting to know what transformation is. And as Rashid said, it starts with let go before it's let's go. But if I was to ask you, what would be the most difficult challenges that banks really have to be watchful for and look for as they go through this? Because transformation is inevitable, but doing it in a way where it is least impactful is probably something that a bank can do if they know what to do. So what would your points of view on that be?
Firstly, good morning, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Great to be here. Chetan, Ram, great event, and I see we've got an exciting agenda ahead of us. I think we're in a really interesting paradigm shift on transformation at the moment. If you look at all the banks today and the journey they're on, you're in this, for those of us who have been in the industry for a number of years, you're in this traditional bank, you've been working there for a number of years, you're used to traditional banking. You're used to ATMs, branches, and the way we work for a number of years. We're now shifting, and the shift has happened because fintechs are in the game and fintechs are playing. You're shifting in this space where you're now asking yourself, how relevant am I for the customer? And again, I think I put my hand up when you asked the question, how much are we going to talk about the customer, right? And my hand was up. So you are in this space where you have to get relevant for the customer. But to do that, you've got to change the way you work. And I loved how you said, take away those egos. And there are a number of things that you need to do to address you shifting from traditional to being relevant for the customer. We talked about legacy. Traditional banks are bogged down with legacy systems. We're in this space where we've built, I would say, in some cases, patches of systems working together. Fintechs don't work like that. Fintechs have an agile way of working. As Chetan said, they can develop in 6 months. traditional banks are developing, and we're sitting there doing planning, doing waterfall, getting developers involved, who in some cases are still thinking about the old way of the way we've done this. So I think the challenge we have is how do we shift ourselves from legacy to actually the way fintechs are working? So that's point number one. Point number two is around culture and mindset. We are humans, obvious point. Human nature is that you're used to what you're doing. You know, I've been with GIB 15 months, worked for an international bank before then, who are very, very used to change. Having real conversations with your workforce on needing to transform and change becomes really important as part of the equation. The ability of having the organization go with you on that journey becomes important. And I'd also link innovation to this. We are, individuals that don't always like thinking about change and innovating what we're doing. So the culture and the mindset is the second point, which I think becomes really important and relevant as what we're doing. I'm going to add a couple of other points, and you could argue how much of these become enablers or challenges. Fintechs and how we partner with fintechs. There's some that may be sitting in this room in their minds thinking fintechs are taking a piece of our pie. That's actually not the case from my perspective. Fintechs we need to partner with. If we don't partner with fintechs, they will take our pie. They're much more agile in the way they work, as I mentioned. So the ability for us to think about them as partners and enablers from a product perspective becomes really, really important for us. And I know myself, and what GIB are doing today, we are playing the role of partnering fintechs to have a better product offering for our end client. Again, I go back to the customer. And then the final point really links to regulations and compliance. We shouldn't underestimate the importance of having a good regulator to support the ecosystem around fintechs. I feel very lucky in this room talking to colleagues in Bahrain, knowing that our regulator is fintech enabling. In many jurisdictions, you could argue that fintechs become the block of fintech evolution. So the ability of having regulatory compliance conducive to the ecosystem of fintechs becomes super important. I would also add that when you're looking to develop new products, we always, the obvious point is we need to look at the customer, right? So everyone now says it's an obvious point. What does the customer want? The challenge we still sometimes have is the way we take compliance on the journey with us, our internal compliance folks. They can't come in last minute. They've got to be at the front end of that journey as you're thinking about new products that are going to be relevant for our customers.
So going back to I think the customer and the compliance clearly seem to be two important aspects of any journey. But I go back to 2 or 3 other points you talked about. I mean, if you talked about transformation, you're talking about moving from legacy to new age fintech. That also means that you're embracing, the ways of working of what the fintech ways of working are. And that's a lot to do with the cultural change that has to be embraced. And that's the point I'm going to take to you, Saeed. And I think that's a very, what better than talking to someone who's heading a Agile transformation, unit in an international bank. Look, you've seen and going back to what Sukh was talking about, right? I mean, if the country is going through a transformation, then every bank in the country has to go through that change. And every bank has to then go through that realization of moving away from legacy to what could be new age fintech-enabled ways of working. And that means ways of working is changing, culturally and in practically on the ground. And you've seen this happen over the years, and you're living through the whole transformation, right? So if I was to ask you, Said, tell me, how have you seen the Bahrain transformation in the technology world, banking technology world, over the last, let's say, 3 to 5 years, and what does that mean in the journey thereafter? So.
Thank you, Ram. Yeah, it's really a question which we have witnessed the change in Bahrain, which I was lucky to have this journey in one of the traditional banks which started many years ago. And when the transformation starts, we have seen that Bahrain regulations lead this transformation, and actually they push the banks to do this. And it became a point of ship in or ship out. You have to comply with these changes, or you will not catch the train. And you will face a moment where you will feel the challenge with the fintech companies, and you will feel like they are coming to take from your pie. Here it is different. The bank should take it from a perspective of being agile will help to improve the business. And it will help you also to comply with the changes in the country, to meet with the regulations. And in Bahrain, they lead it, and they are early adopting the technologies, and of course, open banking is one of the greatest examples we have seen. And the regulations also come quickly to lead it and to guide the banks and the fintechs. We have regulations for fintechs as well. And it became mandatory to be agile. If you wait until, as our colleagues say, if you wait until you make a product and you plan and you organize and you develop until you reach the final product, you will the market will be in a different way, shifted again, and you will have to come again and catch this shift. So being agile, it's really important for the banks. And in addition to that, AI also is a very important part. Bahrain is also going well in the AI area, and banks and of course regional banks and traditional banks, they also will have to find ways to adopt AI, to increase the productivity, to automate processes, also to make it more useful for the customers. We are all customer centric. The banking sector is all working for the customers. This is the final goal. Also, sustainability is very important, because if you think about the ESG guidelines and regulations in Bahrain, also it's leading the banks in this area. So you have to work from different aspects. Fintech, you have to cope with the fintechs. You have to lead the technology from your area. But to summarize, it's a very critical area, and security is very important. So when you make the customer feel the transformation, and everyone in the country and the kingdom reach the impact of the technology in the banking sector, but you have to maintain the security. You have to make sure that everyone receives this technology, but in a secure manner. So this is
Thank you, Said. So if you aren't agile, then you will miss the bus. I think that's the essence of what you said. Raji, why is it that every member of the panel is accusing you of eating their share of the pie? So I'm going to bring this question to you, right? I mean, everybody seems to think that fintechs are here to eat my share of pie, and I have to be careful. Raji will come and eat it. But Raji, honestly, why? First question is, why is this impression being formed, and your own view on this? But more importantly, how can fintechs really play a supportive role in making banks actually succeed in this whole new era of fintech-enabled customer service?
Thank you, Ram. Actually, our prime role as a vendor actually is to provide solution and service to the bank, exactly as banks are looking to provide solution and service to the customer. This is exactly replication. It's not about selling a product or reaching a target. Relation will not last and will not succeed. So we heard the gentleman, what are the concerns of the bank? So we heard the gentleman what are the main concerns of the bank. They are not doing it only as a national sport, actually. It is because they have three types of concern. One way is reaching the customer satisfaction through an overhaul, a customer-centric approach through the journey across all the touch points. And these customers are becoming more demanding, more savvy, and so on. The other chapter actually is that definitely they need to meet the regulator. The regulator actually now, the security, the governance, with all these requirements that need to be fulfilled. And the third chapter actually is that need to do it at some profitable, at a cost-efficient way, and have a sustainable solution. So these three targets, customer satisfaction, regulatory requirement, and cost and sustainability. So the job is not easy, actually, as we have been said. The customer are different segment. You have the normal requirement of customer, you have Gen Z, you have millennium, you have baby boom, you have expat, you have unbanked, underbanked, and from the other side, you have SME and corporate. And each will have its own requirement, and you need to satisfy it through this
everybody.
process. Yeah. I will not talk about regulator. You already know about what are the hurdles about meeting the regulation. So what bank can do actually? Either they go through steps or they go directly. They can go by making things more faster at the beginning, then being much more personalized services, then proactive, reaching advice by now, pay later, all these services, and ending up for moving from product to service. So this is, I believe, what will be the...
That's a very powerful statement, Raji. That statement you just made, right, where technology is shifting from being a product to becoming a service. I mean, honestly, that seems to be true for almost everything. We're talking about platform as a service, we're talking about banking as a service, we're talking about infra as a service. So clearly everything is moving into what could be microservices and what could actually be smaller consumable components as services, right? But I think the earlier point that you talked about, I mean, keeping all the three, ensuring your customer is satisfied that the bank as a customer is dealing with its customers, and you just made a long list of from baby boomers to everybody in the planet. There was a long list of segments to deal with, dealing with the regulator and ensuring that at the end of the day you're remaining profitable. And that actually goes back to Rashid, the point you made that if somebody was to sit and be inventing, innovating and creating stuff and before you realize that you've run out of steam and then you have to start all over again, it's not going to be sustainable, right? So it's very, very critical. I'm going to open up the questions to the audience in a minute. So, but before I did that, I'm going to go with the second round of questions. But this one is going to be the same question to all the four panelists. And I'm just going to make it interesting to actually invite you. We do have a panel towards the end of the day, or the last panel of this morning session, which is about predicting the future. But I guess there are some of us who are impatient like me, who don't want to wait that long, and we would rather have, this panel actually talk to us about over the next 3 to 5 years, and I'll start with you, Sukh. Over the next 3 to 5 years, as banks are going through this quote-unquote digital shift, what's the one or maximum two things? You have to pick not more than two because I have to keep room for others to also pick and they can't repeat. There's some rules of the game here. So I'm starting with you, so you're lucky. What would you pick as the top 1 or 2 most critical success factors or focus areas that banks should focus on as we go through this, as the industry goes through this digital shift?
Let's just take a second to look back 5 years ago. Who would have thought we'd be in an age where Gen AI will be what it is? Who would have thought we were in a space where now we're looking at blockchain and the ability to do, for example, cross-border payments seamlessly, fully transparent?
Yeah.
Right, 5 years ago. Right, so the question's a tough question because now you're asking us. I wouldn't have known that if you asked me that question 5 years ago, to be honest. Right? I'm being very honest. If I can talk about the things that I feel we can control.
Sure.
Right, for the future. Number one, people and talent. We are in a space where the talent requirement to be ready in 5 years will be very different to what it is today. We are now, every bank is hungry for talent across specialist spaces, data scientists, AI engineers, machine learning specialists. So if I think forward, how do we train our people? And this is not just an issue on new people in the market who are doing their education and learning this. It's about people sitting in the organization today.
Yeah.
So number one is the people, the talent, and the training around that. Number two, you touched on it. I think the ecosystem of financial products and servicing clients is all-encompassing now, and it will continue to be. I'll give an example. I have 2 children, 15 and, remember their ages, 16 and 18. They love computer games. I try and take them away from computer games, but they love computer games. How am I attaching financial products, incentives, as they grow older, to their excitement of playing computer games? The ecosystem will be very different in 5 years' time. It'll be all intermingled in this embedded finance. You talked about banking as a service, etc. So, like, we're not no longer talking about a bank selling financial products. We're talking about us being part of an ecosystem where social media, playing computer games becomes part of the ecosystem of financial product servicing for our clients. They're the two.
Lovely. So, you know, the 2 areas that you would pick, obviously, is one is clearly how the ecosystem is in itself actually getting realigned in the way banking becomes embedded in everything we do. But the first point that you talked about is something that is an eye-opener, Sukh. I mean, the reality is that we don't know what talent or skills will be required 5 to 10 years from now. I was talking to someone yesterday that we don't know, the jobs that our children will do don't exist today. I repeat, the jobs that our children will do don't exist today. So you don't know what to get them prepared for, right? So ultimately you're investing in ability to adapt than the skills that will be required itself, right? I mean, that's really where that applies in the context as well. So Rashid, I'm taking the question to you again, and this is the same question I asked Sukh. If you have to pick a couple of focus areas that, as banks, we should be focusing on as the digital shift is happening all around us, what would those top 2 pick for you be?
I think that's one of the critical questions, go forward. So maybe I need to stand for this question.
Please.
And before I do that, I think I want to ask maybe our audience here. How many of you guys are here into fintech or digital companies? Can you do your ideas, your thoughts, your new suggested solutions without the banks? Can you go just out from here and you start do the offering of the banks? You cannot do it. I'll ask on the other side, the banks. How many banks we have here? Let's say today I take your core bank. Can you work? So the way I see it, it is what's happened with when you talk about the fintech, it is the same machine, the same idea that was here maybe 20 years ago, which is the core bank. Which the core bank at that time could open for you an account, which was at that time, wow, you have an account. So we moved from the registry to a system where it can just generate for you a bank number with the specific checkpoints to make sure that nobody can replicate that. But before that, it was a big blue registry where you walk to a bank, say, okay, what's your name? And they start registering your the serial number. Now, what we have seen through the fintech companies, immediately they can use maybe the blockchain, they can use their own criteria to ensure that, okay, yes, we can create an account. but actually that account is not valid unless they go and they link it to an account with the banks. Now, taking this to what I think the most important going forward is actually it should be a full collaboration between the fintech companies and the banks. Without that, it's not going to happen. Yes, when you go to the banks, there will be so many small things. When you go to the fintech companies, so many small things that has to be done by each one of them, which comes from their own experiences to ensure that, yes, we want to ultimately deliver the most suitable or the most fintech or the most innovative product for our customers. So I think that's the main thing I want to say. Like when we talk about what we should see going forward from the banks, there should be a full collaboration. I don't come from fintech companies, I come from banks. But I actually use so many solutions from the fintech companies to make sure that my customers actually get the best services. So I think that's one of the only thing that I think should be done between the fintech companies. And yes, you'll fall under the under the central bank's regulations. You have to adhere to the AML requirement, regardless if it's global, within your own country, but it has to be adhered to. But the partnership, full partnership, has to be done going forward. It cannot be, okay, I'm a fintech company, I'm working on my own, trying to solve a solution.
It's not a lip service, yeah.
Yes. Just to add to this, when we talk about the products, maybe this is another question to everybody here. Can you tell me one product that you have heard about, in the last 2 years? It was not there before that. Something different, a product. Huh? What is that? Jam'iyya. Yeah, okay, so you collect money.
Banking product.
Huh? So you collect money from others.
Yes.
And then you give it to somebody else.
Yes, and it was not a banking product. So Eli has innovated on it as a banking product.
Yeah, but so you're taking money from someone and you give it as a loan to somebody else. So it's like a personal loan, or which is already exists, but however now maybe the stakeholders are different, but it still is a product. But if you look at all of the products, they've been there for so many years. It's just how we offer it. Auto finance, the same. Do you think tomorrow you will do ship finance, maybe spaceship finance? But it's going to be still the same product. SMEs is the same product.
Yeah.
Cards, the same product. So it's just how we're going to deliver it in a better way, in a faster way to our customer down the road. Fintechs, they're saying we can do it for you in a better way, faster way, more secure. But still, end of the day, it's the same customer. And by the way, let's not also not get carried away with our fintech solutions. Because once we go out of this hotel, still we're going to get in the taxi, still we're going to take out of our pocket cash to give it maybe to the taxi driver. Still we're going to go to a restaurant where we interact with people who never heard about app to open an account. Still they need to go to the bank, withdraw their money on the counters. And those are not a number of customers that we should neglect. So the fintech will be there for specific type of customers, but however, the other services has to continue till maybe we
get to the
evolve,
point.
Maybe I think in the next 100 years or so. Okay, I think that's the collaboration.
Brilliant.
Still, I think that's my
Brilliant, Rashid. Evolution is going to be on the rails of collaboration. I think that's the takeaway. That's true. I mean, someone asked me the other day, so, what is this so-called BNPL that you're talking about? I said, I thought I'm teaching the guy. I said, well, it's buy now and pay later. I said, look, I mean, man, ever since sliced bread, people have been doing buying now and paying later. It's called borrowing. So I guess, it's obviously it's being delivered differently. There is new technology that makes it more easier. And obviously you're innovating in the way you are packaging it, but everything's actually been there and we all have been doing it for a while. Well, I'm going to take that question now to you, Saeed. And if you had to pick for me one or two focus areas that are going to be critical as a bank to be conscious of as the digital shift happens, what would those one or two picks of yours be?
Okay, so I will make one new point, and I will take 1 point from
Not allowed. Not allowed, right?
New point, 2 new points.
Okay, so it will be, for me, I believe it will be the pace of execution. It's really critical when you adapt with the technology or fintech or AI or whatever new products. How will you execute to reach your goal? If the pace of execution is still traditional and you will do it in a way it takes time and without adopting the modern ways. And the agility is not only for technology. Agility is a mindset from the management till the execution till working on the ground. So the pace of execution is very critical. If it is still slow or even moderate, you will not reach anywhere. The ideas will come. The banking sector is all open. The regulations are all around. You will know what to be done, but you need to do it. You need to start execution and you need to start to achieve.
Even if you have to fail, fail fast.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, perfect. So even you have to start, you have to execute and reach your goal either with success or failure. And if it's wrong, you shift to another way.
Yeah.
This is one of the points. The other one is the people.
People. No, I mean, sorry. Please go ahead and make your point.
Yeah. So as he summarized it well. It's really people, talents, because execution will be performed by people.
Yeah.
So both are both sides of the coin.
Of the coin.
Yeah.
No, I guess yes, Habib. I can clearly see why people is a very critical factor, especially when talent is scarce. It becomes very, very critical to invest in building those skills and actually be future ready, right? Raji, you have the last word. What would you pick as the focus areas for banks to be aware of as they go through this digital shift?
So actually, technology is there. It's in the hands of everybody now. Whatever lasts, actually, whatever has been changing is data and the human. So data, actually, whenever you change technology, you can change solution. What remains data, you have to move from solution to solution. This data need to be secured and cybersecurity. This data is the basis of any AI, because the biased data will mean biased AI and incorrect action or incorrect decision. So a human definitely to understand what are the real needs and what are the perspective of the customer.
So if you have to focus on future, focus on your data. Data is a new oil. We are in Bahrain.
It's taken us how many minutes to talk about data?
There you go.
When you asked the question about hands up,
Yes.
I was
You were expecting data.
I was expecting data in there.
Yeah.
And I'm quite surprised the panels lasted, whatever, 40 minutes, and we just...
All is
so
well that
I
ends
fully
well.
agree with that
Yeah.
point on
But
data.
you made the point. No, I agree. I mean, data, look, embedded in AI, you can't really have intelligence unless you actually have processed what is underlying data, right? So it's clearly embedded in everything we do about AI, and as they say, the opposite of artificial intelligence is natural stupidity, the diametric opposite of it, right? So, and if you don't have data, then you don't have awareness, and if you don't have awareness, then you are naturally stupid. So it has to be about data. Well, I really have time for maybe 2 or 3 questions from the audience. Are there any hands up for questions for the panel here? Yes, you pass the mic there. Can you introduce yourself and...
Hi everyone. Mahmoud Kadham, Gulf International Bank. Thanks everyone for the panel and the committee. I mean, thanks for what you said. We've been evolving in digital banking, moving from internet banking, mobile banking, digital banking. One question, do we have all what we have in terms of people, tools, technology, regulation to move to the next era or not? This is question number 1. And the question number 2, we've seen, I can say, quite since the last 10 years, quite niche products, niche services being produced, being come to the market from several, fintechs. When I want to do my payment, I will open Benefit Pay. When I want to obtain, for example, specific offers, I will use that app. I will use another app to get something else. However, from customer perspective, and since you mentioned customer-centric, and at the same time, Chitin was saying that focus on one or two products for new fintechs. Is it the right way? Or will the market go towards a new trend of super apps? Now, I believe in each one of us here in the room, if you open his app store, you will find he's using at least maybe 5 or 6 apps for different things. And maybe some of the apps, he will use it limitedly for the marketing campaign, then he will lift it. He will use it, one for the payment, one to check his transfers, another to check his mortgage, another one for the credit card where he will get some offers. But we are not evolving towards one-stop shop app, or are we going? Because it's two different things. Banking is a service, moving to different services, or moving to different super apps. So that's my question.
Thank you. So 2 questions, and maybe we'll take the first question first. Do we have all it takes as we go through the journey, or are we actually evolving and discovering? Who wants to take that question? Go ahead, Said.
Is it working? Yes. Okay, so from technology perspective, from regulation perspective, even from banks which are going forward to new technologies, yes, we have. Technology is there, talents are there, funding is there, and banks, as we see all in Bahrain, they are becoming bigger, they are getting together, and they are having more funds. I believe the technology is there, the tools are there, even the mindset is there, and people aspiration and people, they know what they want, the new generations, and the products will come to us. It's the time that the product, when people talk about it, when people need it, then it will happen. Then banks will achieve it. This is
you're a very positive, optimistic guy there.
I'm probably less optimistic.
Yeah, I was.
To be honest,
yeah.
I think we still have a long way to go. Right? You know, you're obviously more of a technologist. I'm not. I'm probably logical mind, thinking that we need to. You know,
Technologists can also be logical, by the way.
They can actually, yeah. Unless you get in front of an architect, then it's a bit different. So, yeah, you know, I think we tick some of the boxes, but I don't think we tick all the boxes. And I think some of the boxes are not fully ticked. Yeah, I think we could do a better job on the way we look at processes. I think we do a better job on the way we think about our talent and the skills and the tools they have, right? I think technology is there, actually. The tick for technology is there, but you've got to know how to use the technology. So, like, I'm probably less optimistic, to be honest. I'm a bit more on the, but I'm not glass half empty. I'm glass half full, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I would tend to think on the same lines. And the second part of the question that makes up for 2 questions that I had promised to the audience. Are we moving to the era of super apps? Are we going to be remaining as laser sharp focused individual apps the way we currently are operating? Who wants to take that question? You would like to?
Actually, we'll be answering your question and the gentleman's question, actually. At a super tough time, actually, you don't want to make the decision. You will be having some super app or some portal where you put your need, and actually the need will drive you to the proper bank, to the proper service, and so on.
So Raji is already visualizing a future. I just say I'm Raji, or I'm Ram, or I'm Rashid, and well, bingo. We know what we are looking for. Well, I mean, who knows? I mean, that's really where we are moving towards. We didn't realize 45 minutes just went like that. Very interesting insights, panelists. Extremely useful thoughts. Sets the tone for the rest of the day. We've really have some very beautiful views. Well, the panelists will be available. If you have other questions, you could always stay back and pose it to our panelists. With that, may I actually, thank all of you for actually being here, and it was wonderful. Appreciate it.